Hello friends, welcome. I got a request from all of you to prepare lectures on literary criticism, and therefore I have decided that I will prepare short videos lectures on different literary critics. So in today's session, our first critic is Plato. Friends, in this session we will try to cover brief details about Plato's life, his major works, and his charges against poetry that we are going to explore in this session. As we are aware that Plato is a key figure in Western philosophy and his views on poetry is also notable. So he was a Greek philosopher and he was strongly influenced by Socrates. Yes, so as a young Plato, he received different ideas from Socrates, and when he became older, he was very serious about constructing ideal state and ideal citizen. So for him, truth matters most, and we should remember that he was a philosopher. Primarily, he was a philosopher and not a critic. But he founded academy in Athens, which is one of the earliest institutions of higher learning. So in his different works like Ion, Gorgias, Symposium, Phaedrus, and Republic, we see his views on art and literature and poetry. For example, Ion is a short dialogue in which Socrates argues that the poets and rhapsodes creates not through knowledge but through divine inspiration. So this work highlights about the idea of divine inspirations and therefore for them unreliable sources of truths are there. In another work, Gorgias, there is a discussion on rhetoric where Socrates critiques sophists and argues that the true rhetoric must be grounded in justice and the pursuit of good. Symposium is again a dialogue written in a dialogue form and it talks about love, eros, where different speakers, including Socrates, they all present views on physical love and the love of pure beauty and truth. In Phaedrus, again, love, rhetorics, and the soul. These are the chief subjects, and divine madness is also talked, uh, and therefore linking love to the pursuit of truth. Republic is his most famous work, which outlines his vision of the ideal state, justice, and the philosopher king, and his famous theory of forms is also there. So these are some of the major works by Plato. His theory of mimesis or imitations. For Plato, his idea about imitation is very important. Plato believed that writing poetry is an act of imitation, and in all arts, essentially they are imitative in nature. So those who are imitating from the nature, they are not telling the truth or reality. So, by imitating from the nature, poet never conveys the truth. It does not convey the truth. So, poetry is a twice removed from the reality. Even it is a copy of copy. And poetic inspiration is imitation. Poet imitates the things. So basically, this is what he uh, gives the theory of mimesis, that is the imitation. because it does not convey the truth or reality. Now, let's talk about his charges against poetry. Plato made several charges against poetry, and therefore he concluded that poetry is not good for the society. First, moral ground. Poetry often portrays gods and heroes immoral in action, and due to that, due to that type of portrayal, it misguides the youth who imitates this behavior. Even Plato argues that poetry becomes virtue instead of promoting ethical conduct. So, on the moral ground, Plato believed that literature, poetry, portrays great heroes and gods in different kinds of immoral actions, and therefore it is not good for the society. His second charge against poetry is intellectual, on the intellectual ground. For him, poetry is based on imitation, and therefore it does not convey truth. Poets do not possess real knowledge of the subject, whatever they write, and it merely imitates the things. This makes poetry inferior form of knowledge. So it is not an intellectual activity, and it is not about gaining any kind of truth or wisdom. On the third level, emotional ground, even Plato believed that poetry appeals to emotions rather than reason, and it encourages irrational impulses. So instead of strengthening the rational soul, poetry disturbs the harmony of reason, spirit, and appetite in human nature. So he feels that literature makes people weak, emotionally weak, and during that time, he need for he need warriors for creating ideal state. Now on the fourth ground, that is utilitarian ground, Plato believed that poetry is useless activity. Writing poetry is a useless activity. It has no purpose. So poetry does not contribute to the practical utility, truth, or promotions of virtue. Instead, it distracts citizens from their duties and pursuit of knowledge. So these are some charges which Plato made against poetry, and therefore, as a critic, Plato raised a very significant question, that what is the use of poetry or literature in the society. He believed that literature on these grounds is not useful for society for creating ideal state. So friends, I think that this short summary will help you to understand Plato's theory of imitations and his charges against poetry. Thank you for